This is how to read Jin Ping Mei Chapter 41. Portrait book. Two children are married and laugh and play together, and the two beauties are angry and bitter. Chapter book. Simon King and Kiao Dahu get married, and Pan Jinlian shares Li Ping'er's quarrel. 1. Things before the marriage. It was the 12th day of the first lunar month that Simon's wives and concubines visited Kiao's house. Early that morning, 8 sedans went out in great force. Does the 8-top sedan mean 6-bedroom wives and concubines? Of course not. One of them belonged to Wu Yunyang's sister-in-law Da Jinzi. The 2 smaller ones belonged to Brother Guan and his daughter-in-law who took care of Brother Guan. The one who was absent was Sun Zue. The reason is that she is left to look after the house. And the deeper reason is that she is just a servant and has no qualifications to go. As his wives and concubines went out, Simon King finally had the opportunity to have a private meeting with his little lover. Who is the little lover? Chen Mai? Long time no see. Because the Lantern Festival was coming soon, Simon's family planned to entertain some officials' female relatives at a banquet on the 14th day of the first lunar month. So Chen Mai and 4 other family members also dressed up to meet the guests. Of course, we know that this is redundant, because Simon King wants Chen Mai to receive guests without asking her opinion at all, just giving orders, saying this is just to create a step for Chen Mai to ask for clothes. The ladies have all made new clothes, so they will look good when accompanying all the ladies of the government. One by one, we are just like burnt papers, going out for nothing to make people laugh. We have those 2 old clothes on us. How can we wear them to meet people? Yes, it's so embarrassing. In the past 2 days, weren't the Simon family busy making new clothes for their wives and concubines? Didn't Simon King just promise to reward Pan Jinlian with some beautiful clothes? They all have them, but Chen Mai doesn't. So how can it be done? Chen Mai is jealous of them. Of course she is qualified because Simon King is dating her now. Simon King was happy when he heard it. It was okay. He was jealous. It doesn't matter. Call Tailor Zhao. Sister Yan will take for a view, and each of you will cut 3 pieces. Simon King had never thought about it, but Chen Mai reminded him that he had a daughter. Even the eldest sister will take you for means that I will do it for the eldest sister first, and then I will do it for you. Now that you have agreed, you should be satisfied, right? No. If that were the case, it wouldn't be Chen Mai. 3 is not enough. I don't want to compete with him. I also ask you for a white silk jacket to match with the bright red brocade armor. This is Chen Mei's provocation. Not only am I not the same as those 3 girls, I also have one more thing than the eldest sister. Simon King's answer to this was very calm. If you don't worry, I'll cut one with your eldest sister. This means that I can give you 1 more piece, but give her 1 more piece. Maybe he was thinking in his heart. Yes, after all, she is also his biological daughter. It's just that the word indispensable means that the eldest sister is indeed not as good as Chen Mai. Is Chen Mai satisfied? No, not yet. Her answer was, the big girl only has 1 thing, but I don't have 1. And he can't say no. This means that if the eldest sister is there, she will be embarrassed to see me if I don't have her. The word no is a step further than no, which shows that she doesn't even bother to be with her eldest sister. Simon King Tong agreed. Chen Mai just liked her, and she accompanied Simon King to drink wine for a whole day in the house. Just a people drinking wine all day. Naturally, hundreds of words were omitted in the middle. Compared with Pan Jinlian, we even feel that Chen Mai is not begging at all, but simply threatening. Once this comes out, we can understand how deserving of death will be for second sister Shen when she thinks that there is only 1 eldest girl in the Simon family. When she criticizes second sister Shen in the future, as the protagonist of the last part of Jin Ping Mei, Chen Mei was written inadvertently in the story in this way, which also accumulated rich heritage for the next 20 chapters of the text. Like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves. 2. Matters. During marriage, a group of female relatives were drinking at Kiao's house. Halfway through the drink, Wu Yunyang came down and went to the back room to change clothes and smooth her face. This changing clothes is also changing clothes, which means go into the bathroom in the master room. When I came out, I saw Brother Guan and the eldest daughter of the Kiao family lying on the king together. The infants were beating each other and laughing and playing together. So the women started to boo, saying, "It's better for them both, like a couple." It was Wu Yunyang and Meng Yulu who said this, and then they conveyed it to Wu de Jinzi, and then to the Kiao family. Mrs. Kiao's wife was very good at joking in front of everyone. "How dare you, my little family, to get into the house of a big girl like me?" Unexpectedly, Wu Yunyang got excited. "My son can't humiliate your young lady. So, why do you say this? Talk." Of course Wu Yunyang is confident. Now the Simon family is a 5th grade official. Rich and powerful. Why can't she be as good as you? The daughter of a wealthy family. Besides, laughing and having fun together is not the reason for getting married. If the Kiao family didn't have a lot of money, Wu Yunyang would really look down on her. Meng Yulu asked Li Ping'er what he thought about this, but Li Ping'er just laughed and said nothing. Meng Yulu was very smart. She actually disapproved of it, but she deliberately asked Li Ping'er to express her position while making noise. She also wanted to see how the bully Li Ping'er would react. However, what I didn't expect was that Li Ping'er also understood the situation clearly and said nothing, since the first wife and the legitimate mother had already spoken. What objection could she raise? She didn't have much ownership over the child at all. And what was the point of agreeing? She didn't agree at all, let alone flattering Wu Yunyang against her will. Since no one objected, the other women attending the party did not think it was too much trouble and started making noises to get it done. From then on, the Kiao family and the Simon family gave each other gifts and called each other family. Readers may have questions. Just get married. What can a child do? Isn't it just a family life? Isn't it serious? The ancients really took it seriously. Aren't there many people who kept their promises in marriage? Anyway, in ancient times, marriage and love had little to do with the parties involved. They were all ordered by the parents. Since the wives of the two families made the decision, there was nothing inappropriate. Moreover, the highest status of an ancient woman in the family was by no means a daughter-in-law, but a mother-in-law. This is widely reflected in A Dream of Red Mansions. Therefore, starting from Wu Yunyang, this is a very interesting and proud thing in itself, because in the Kiao family, she is supported by all the stars, because as the aunt, she has absolute say over the official brother, and marrying her child is simply enjoying it in advance, with a happy life filled with children and grandchildren. As a mother-in-law, when facing her daughter-in-law who is only a few months old in front of her, she feels so happy and comfortable. 3. Things after getting married. As far as the story is concerned, getting married is nothing. The key is the reaction after getting married. As soon as Wu Yunyang came back, she reported the marriage to Simon King. Simon King's first reaction was, "It's just a marriage. It's just that I don't want to move with you." Simon King didn't give any reasons. He just said the conclusion first. But it was like a bucket of ice water falling from the head, and Wu Yunyang turned the wheel instantly. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, saw her newly adopted eldest sister and our child sleeping on the bed, both covered by the quilt. "You hit me, and I hit you. Just like a young couple." He called us to go and said he was about to get up, so we couldn't help but become friends at the banquet. She was obviously the one who first saw the young couple laughing and having fun together, and now she is blaming it on the older sister. She was obviously the one who initiated the idea of getting married, but she said it's not because of it. Not because of it. This level of shamelessness is simply different from that of Pan Jinlian. Looks good and bad. At this time, Simon King added his reason. First, although the Kiao family is rich, they are still ordinary people. Second, I am an official now, and I am related to him. I will wear an official hat and he will wear a hat. How can we sit at the same table? Thirdly, some colleagues came to marry me before, but I thought their daughter was born in the same house, a concubine, so I didn't agree. Is that right? No. These 3 reasons are all far from the truth, and each one is more unreasonable than the last. First, although the Kiao family is a common people's family, there are relatives of the emperor in the Kiao family. The next time Mrs. Kiao Wu comes to visit, Simon King will have to make do with it. Article 2. There are still several poor relatives in the court. Not to mention the Kiao family is very rich. At worst, they can buy an official position. Article 3. Concubinehood is the most embarrassing pain for a wealthy family with many wives and concubines, but it is not mentioned much in Jin Ping Mei by Dream of Red Mansions. This pain has become a nightmare that Tan Chen and Jia Huan cannot escape in their lives. Regarding Brother Guan, we all know that he is from a concubine. So as soon as he finished the third reason, Pan Jinlian, who had not spoken for the whole day, immediately couldn't hold it anymore. I think some people raised them in the house, but who raised them outside the house? Even the child of the Kiao family was born in the house. It was the god of Taoism who bumped into the birthday boy. You can't say I'm tall, and I can't either. I think you are short. Frankly speaking, Pan Jinlian's attack is still very artistic. First, she deliberately misinterpreted the connotation of Shang in the room, a concubine, by using the childish comparison of Shang outside the room. Then she used the word also to insinuate that Brother Guan was also a Shang in the room. And finally, he also used a humorous remark to summarize the entire incident. However, such verbal attacks are meaningless, because the truth she exposed is already known to everyone, but it is also tacitly understood. Naturally, Li Ping'er couldn't say it. This was what made her sad, and it was also what annoyed her about being replaced by Wu Yunyang. Naturally, Wu Yunyang couldn't say it. This was her pride, and it was also the thing that made her lose face after being exposed. Naturally, Simon King couldn't say it either, because in his heart Brother Guan is the only eldest son and his only happiness. Perhaps what he really regrets is not that Brother Guan is not the eldest son, but that Brother Guan's mother Li Ping'er is not his wife. So Pan Jinlian's words made him furious quickly. You thief and whore, why don't you get over here? People are talking here and they are interjecting. What do you have to say? Pan Jinlian didn't look at the opportunity or the object. She was unwise and asked for trouble. She quickly turned red with embarrassment and replied arrogantly, "Who said there is something wrong with me here? You know I didn't say anything." Of course we still remember that this Shuochu is not the first time we have seen it. The last time it was eye-catching was when Meng Yulu criticized Song Huilian. The Chu there has the same concept as the Chu here. The former refers to the status of concubine. This refers to the status of the wife. Song Huilian had no place to talk in front of his concubine, and Pan Jinlian had no place to talk in front of his wife. As for Li Ping'er, the scriptures during the ceremony showed that she was the second official wife. 4. The first garden war. Now that Simon King has admitted it, the matter of the two children marrying and laughing together has been settled. After returning home, everyone had their own reactions. But of course the story could not end like this. In fact, the story had just begun. The two beauties shared their anger and bitterness, and Pan Jinlian shared the vindictiveness of Li Ping'er. We have been fighting for them for more than 20 chapters to fight for favor in version 3.0. But the long-awaited war has not broken out head-on. It has been building momentum for a long time until Brother Guan got married this time, and Li Ping'er and Pan Jinlian were single. The garden war, cheered by Tao, Wu Yunyang and Meng Yulu, finally started. The marriage was initiated by Wu Yunyang. As we said before, Li Ping'er disapproved. Meng Yulu also disapproved. Not to mention Pan Jinlian. She could no longer tolerate a child, let alone a little daughter-in-law. How did Li Ping'er express her dissatisfaction? She couldn't raise objections on the spot, and she had no reason to raise objections when she got home. So she had no choice but to congratulate each other with Wu Yunyang, and it ended harmoniously on the surface. Otherwise, while having tea, Zhu Chen came to announce that Brother Guan was looking for his mother in the house, asking Li Ping'er to go back to the garden room. What Li Ping'er thought was that as soon as Ryer got home at night, she would take her child directly back to her room. She should be waiting for her in the main room at the back. The garden road and the house were all dark. The ancients didn't have electric lights, so she would definitely do it. Scaring the kids, Wu Yunyang said that she ordered him to be sent back to his room, and Xiao Yu said that someone lit a lantern and sent it there. But Li Ping'er still complained about Ru Yair as soon as she got back to the room. Why did you hug him without telling me? Li Ping'er didn't even want Wu Yunyang to make the call and give instructions on such a small matter, let alone such a big thing as getting married. Well, in cloth. Of course, she could only complain like this. After all, the child was still with her. Not to mention Wu Yunyang, which of her garden beauty gang companions was easy to mess with. Waves of jealousy rushed towards her, and she had no time to care about herself. Pan Jinlian, who was deeply hurt by Simon King's words of talk about it, walked to the back and cried. What's the use of crying? If you want a war, please cheer up. You have to rely on Meng Yulu at this critical moment. Others ignored Pan Jinlian. Meng Yulu came over first to comfort her. "Why are you just worried? Just let him say a few words." Pan Jinlian began to be sarcastic. The general meaning was that it was obviously true that Brother Guan was a commoner. Why would we get married in such a small way? It would still be more than 10 years. Wouldn't it be very troublesome if things changed? Meng Yulu agreed with this. She did not agree with getting married in the first place. It was just for the sake of socializing and playing tricks with each other. It was nothing more than multiple reasons for moving around. And for them, who don't have children, walking around like this is a pain in the eyes. Pan Jinlian said again. "Just think of getting married. Why are you scolding me?" Meng Yulu replied. "Who taught you to speak out without making any distinction? That's what I mean above. Although it is the truth that a concubine is a concubine, you can't speak out without considering the importance." Pan Jinlian got angry when she spoke, and added, "Your brother is lost in his hometown, and you don't know whose son you are." This was going too far. Meng Yulu immediately shut up and was speechless. This is still Wu Yunyang's territory. The walls have ears, and the bloodline issue is definitely not something they can discuss. Moreover, Meng Yulu has achieved her goal. Once her echo and sympathy cheered up Pan Jinlian, she felt that she was not alone and still had strength. Secondly, she successfully seduced Pan Jinlian and transferred Simon King's insulting anger to Brother Guan, the focus of the conflict. And then, leaping her, what she has to do now is to retreat to the second line and sit back and watch the tigers fight. That night, Pan Jinlian went back to her room angrily. Unexpectedly, she was bullied by Qiu Ju when she called the door. When she returned, it was late. So she became even more angry. After holding it in all night, the next day, the 13th day of the first lunar month, when Simon King went to work in the Yamen, Pan Jinlian began to beat Qiu Ju to vent her anger. Qiu Ju was asked to kneel in the yard with a big stone on her head, beating and cursing her, until Qiu Ju screamed like he was killing a pig. Li Pinger, a neighbor in the garden, couldn't stand it anymore. Brother Guan was frightened and woke up. Li Pinger, who was dull, asked Shu Chen to go over and plead, "Tell your fifth mother to stop spanking Qiu Ju. I just took some milk and fell asleep." Li Pinger is actually innocent, and Brother Guan is even more innocent. However, this is undoubtedly a way to teach others. Pan Jinlian probably never dreamed that Qiu Ju could have such a magical effect. As a result, she became more and more happy to be beaten and scolded. Li Pinger hugged Brother Guan and covered her ears, so angry that her hands and feet became cold. Pan Jinlian also liked beating Qiu Ju even more from then on. 5. Research. Problems with Li Pinger's character design. Pan Jinlian beat Qiu Ju and awoke Brother Guan. Li Pinger cried angrily for a long time, but when Simon King came back in the evening, she didn't say a word. From here, one of the strangest propositions in Jin Ping Mei appears. Li Pinger did not take the initiative to offend Pan Jinlian. She also knew that Pan Jinlian was just jealous. So why did she keep silent? Even if she knew she was outmatched, why couldn't she tell Simon King? In the past, Li Pinger was so fierce towards Hua Zixu, and so ruthless towards Zhang Zhushan. But now Li Pinger is so weak. What is the reason for such a rapid change in personality? Scholars of all ages have been arguing about this research. Some people think that this is the failure of Jin Ping Mei, while others think that this is exactly the excellence of Jin Ping Mei. For this reason, let us briefly analyze. 1. Regardless of Li Pinger's character, one thing is undeniable. That is, Li Pinger is careless, or a bit stupid. This can be seen from her initial transfer of property to the Simon family, and her marriage to Zhang Zhushan without knowing why, and from her last words before her death, after giving birth to a child. As a mother, Li Pinger always worried about gains and losses, but she was still too careless. Many times in the following article, the war with Pan Jinlian had just ended one day, and the next day the two women sat together as if nothing had happened, and even left Brother Guan alone next to Pan Jinlian, etc. It was these carelessness and dullness that caused Li Pinger's cowardice in front of Pan Jinlian. 2. Li Pinger's own needs seem to have been met. For the extremely wealthy Li Pinger, the sense of security and sexual pleasure that Hua Zixu and Zhang Zhushan cannot provide can be obtained from Simon King, and they can be obtained continuously and intensely. And she also rose to the top of the list of wives and concubines, and successfully brought a son. This only eldest son was much loved. Perhaps at this time, she inevitably felt that there was nothing more for her husband to ask for, because of the cowardice brought about by the first point. Li Ping'er felt that she was incapable of defeating Pan Jinlian, and was afraid of incurring more intense revenge from her. At the same time, she did not want their war to embarrass Simon King. On the other hand, she had a sense of pride in serving her favors without fighting and favoring her. When she was terminally ill and realized that she was in need of help, she expressed, "The inner voice of heaven does not speak, but he exalts himself. And the earth does not speak, but he enriches himself." It is a profound explanation of this sense of pride. It was the intertwining of these two inferiority complexes of her own incompetence, and the pride of being at the commanding heights of the fight for favor, that ultimately led to her ambivalence of both resentment and fear of Pan Jinlian. Every time she was so angry that she just cried secretly. It was a strong struggle of this ambivalence. If these are not enough to prove the inevitability of Li Ping'er's character change, then we may have doubts about Li Ping'er's original character, since Li Ping'er did everything for Brother Guan, and all Pan Jinlian's jealousy originated from Brother Guan, and Brother Guan was the center of Simon King's love and power. Then the only possibility might be Brother Guan. As mentioned before, Li Ping'er in Jade Palace was 9 months pregnant, but Simon King didn't know about it, which is really an inexplicable flaw. What if Li Ping'er had been actively or even deliberately concealing the truth? Perhaps, as Pan Jinlian has repeatedly suspected, Brother Guan's bloodline has an ulterior secret. What if some secrets were revealed, which might cause greater turmoil or overwhelm misfortune, so she had to endure it? Of course, these are just after-dinner reasonings and conjectures. Perhaps, the mystery of Li Ping'er's dramatic change of character can never be explained from the text. But after all, this is a masterpiece of an author with a huge pen, who worked hard for half a life, but would rather remain anonymous. Therefore, when reading and studying Jin Ping Mei, while sighing and admiring the exquisite text design, there are such huge flaws in the most important characters, we can probably only prefer to believe it exists. Just think of Jin Ping Mei underneath the surface text of "There is a world that the author does not want to say, or even dares to say, this world that we cannot see. Let them still stay quietly in the darkness and live in our eyes." The real Li Ping'er who lives between the lines of the text is just that kind of person. What we see of her is all she has.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.